All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue his shirt down. So I'm flipping this over, getting my glue ready. I'm gonna do just a few dots. So I'm starting near the corners first. Up here doesn't really have corners, but that's the top. So then on the sleeves there that are sticking out, and then I'm doing a dotted line. I definitely do not want to think about putting syrup on pancakes or waffles right now. That would mean I'm using way too much. All right, so I have this shape that looks the same on both sides. So in math, you guys might have talked about this before, we would call that symmetrical. So that crease represents my line of symmetry. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make another shape that will have a line of symmetry. And we've been talking about shapes that could be either classified as geometric or organic. This right now, definitely geometric because it's a rectangle. So I'm going to use this to make his head. If I put it here, you guys can kind of visualize how that could be his head, but that's definitely not the shape I'm going to use. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold this in half. So I want the sides to meet up evenly, smush it down, crease it so it stays folded, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a pretty organic looking oval. So I'm going to start here at the crease. So I'm letting this sort of open so you see this is the open side. So I'm starting here at the crease. And I'm going to draw a line that comes around towards the other side, not quite touching it, but getting very, very close. And then get very, very close to that bottom corner. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut on that line that I just drew. And then I'll see a shape that I can visualize looking much more like his head. Do not throw away these scraps because you will use them to make his ears. So I'm going to set this off to the side, open this up, and then I'm going to place it on there and see. Well, I don't know if I want to point at the top of his head, but if I put it down here, it almost seems like his chin, right? So that's where I think I'm going to put that. So we're going to go ahead. We're not going to glue it down just yet because we're going to go ahead and think about his ears. So what I could do is this paper is still folded in half, so that actually makes it easy. If yours is not, if you cut it apart, just sort of layer it together. But what I'm going to do is place this over here. This seems to be the biggest piece that I've left. It's a little bigger than that. So I'm going to draw an ear that takes up most of that leftover paper. And I could do sort of a wavy line to it to make it look like it's a little kind of furry ear. And then I'm going to cut that out. So I'm going to cut on that line. Made a little bit more work for me because I drew that wavy line there, but I wanted it to look much more natural, more organic looking. And then I'm following this line, and because that was layered together, I actually have two. So when I pull these apart, I can sort of place them one on each side to see how they look. Now, I think it would look better instead of overlapping them. This isn't really a real word, but I'm going to underlap them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the head there, put some small dots of glue on this ear, and then I will take it and slip it, and it's very small so it's hard to pick up, but I'm going to hold his head in place, and then I'm going to slip it behind where his head's going to get glued down because I haven't glued down his head yet. So I'm pressing that down. I'm going to repeat that same step with the other side. Small dots of glue. You'll notice I'm careful to hold my paper with one hand and hold my glue bottle with the other. If I hold the glue bottle with two hands over when I'm putting it on, then it's going to turn on the syrup time. All right, now, when I move his head, it looks kind of weird because his ears are floating around there, but as long as I overlap it back where I put everything before in my plan, it will look like it's in the right place. So I'm going to do a dotted line around the oval, and then this is a pretty big oval, so I'm definitely going to do some in the middle. But again, if I hold this up, I do not have to worry about glue dripping off of it because Mr. Bazin does not use too much glue. When I glue it, I want to make sure I hold it over the spot where I plan on pressing it down to make sure it overlaps the ears, and it should overlap onto his shirt, and then press that down. So I don't know about you guys, but I definitely see a bear, all right? So we're going to finish some of his other features.